We are on. Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome back to India Game Changer. Now, Murakami, the founder and general partner at Incubate Fund Asia and a partner at SMBC Asia Rising Fund, is with us today. Murakami-san, thank you so much for coming to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. Good. Very good. I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me on the show. Yeah.
It's great to have you here. Before we jump into like the really deep part of this conversation, can we give our listeners a little bit of your background for some context?
Sure. Yeah. It might be a little long, but
Go for it.
Maybe a few minutes. So yeah, as you clearly mentioned, I'm the founder and general partner of the Incubate Fund Asia. Incubate Fund is one of the largest seed-focused venture capital fund from Japan. We're managing about the slightly over $1 billion as a AUM, and then it's quite a big size as a seed-focused venture capital fund. And we started in Japan 12 years back. Initial few years of the operation, we were investing only in Japan, but obviously we noticed the opportunity outside of Japan as well. So we started operations in India in 2016, and now we have operation in the US and also in the LATAM as well. And then how we operate is we separated operating the fund. So we share the brand, Incubate Fund, and then also basic principle of the investments. But each regional funds are independently operated. So all the investor base and then the investment decision making, everything is independent. And I'm running all the India investments. Now we expanded the operation from India to Southeast Asia as well. That's why actually we rebranded our fund from Incubate Fund India to Incubate Fund Asia, actually. But I have been running all of the India investments for the last 8 years. And then my personal story a little bit. I got a higher education in the US. Then I joined the Nomura investment bank in Tokyo. And it was right after the financial crisis happened in 2008. And then I just joined the investment bank. So I couldn't get any deals for past years, actually. But my assignment was the tech and internet startup coverage team I was assigned.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, as you know, right, in Japan, the IPO market is very wide open even for the startups, right? Even sub-$100 million valuation companies can go public. So my role was mainly finding the potential IPO candidates from the very early stage, like only few employee type of the stage. If we feel this company can potentially go public after 3-4 years, we just build the relationship, support them from many aspects, right? We're supporting them from the finance, for the introduction to the partners, potential clients, all of these things we have been doing almost for free. And then maybe 3-4 years later, once they luckily reach into the IPO stage, we are going to get the top position and then getting the underwriter position and then make money from there. So I have been doing that for 6-7 years in Tokyo, and then few companies from our clients went successful IPO. And then I was initially thinking after successful IPO of the company called Jigen, which is the internet media company in Japan. The company I actually technically founded when they were very small scale and then no controller team there, only founder and few employees type of scale. But I felt a very strong potential in the founders. So I supported them from the scratch. And then they actually reached to the $500 million type of valuations and did their successful IPO. So I was feeling like once after this successful IPO of the Jigen, I may going to quit Nomura and then maybe join startup as a CFO role. Actually, I had some offers. So joining some startup for the CFO position or joining the co-op team in the listed startup, listed internet companies in Japan. But somehow maybe Nomura sensed my thinking, and then suddenly, actually, somehow 2-3 days before the IPO of the Jigen, I just got a notice you will be relocated to New York in Nomura. Yeah, and then that's the new assignment in the US under Nomura. It's kind of exciting. As you know, like Nomura acquired the Lehman Brothers operation in Japan and in Europe, but they couldn't get the US operation, right? I think the Barclays acquired the US operation. So investment banking in Nomura in the US was very weak at the time. So they're trying to make it strong. And then my assignment is going to the US and then joining the telecom media technology coverage team and then make the investment banking operation in the US to be getting stronger in Nomura. So it sounds interesting. And then, I'm just going to stop my idea of quitting Nomura and then I'm just going to accept this offer and going to New York, right? And then it actually went to New York. It was exciting moments, and then I also enjoyed the work. Also, I was at the time newly married, so living in Manhattan, obviously it's a good paying job, working hard, playing hard type of the culture that I also enjoy. But at the same time, I just realized the obviously like deal size, which we are doing in the US compared to my small IPO deals in Japan, obviously it's much bigger. And then for most of the maybe investment bankers, it's more exciting job. But I just gradually realizing I was enjoying my work in Japan more. Even the deal size is smaller.
Because
I just realized I'm very much a startup guy. Because in
Yeah.
Japan, as I mentioned, like this very small company can go public. So I have a direct contact to the founders.
it's just so much more impactful,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like you're really having impact.
That's the point. Yeah.
When a company with like 500 people or 1,000 people goes public, it's fun and it feels important because it's a $4 billion deal or something.
Yeah.
But it's not as cool in a way as when a 5-person company
Yeah.
goes public for 35 million bucks and it changes everybody's life, kind of thing. Yeah.
You're right. That's the thing. And then I've been talking to founders almost every day, right? Even I was
Right.
in Japan. Right. Like 500, 600 employee companies or maybe 1,000 employee companies. Like it's very rare to directly talk to the actual CEO or the founder of the company. Mainly talking to CFO or the top dev people, right? Then I just realized I'm very much a startup guy. And then should I stay in this investment banking world or Nomura for next 10 years or not? Because I was at the time 30 years old, right? And then the next 10 years of the life is very important for my career.
Yeah.
And my answer was no. I just decided to quit Nomura. And then at the time, my initial thought process is just traveling around the world with my wife for maybe next 6 months to 1 year. And then see what's going on in the world and then decide what I'm going to do next. But that almost same timing when I resigning from Nomura, one of my best friend from my college, he's Japanese, but he was running small startup in Japan. And then he had a lot of clients all over Asia, including India. And then he was visiting all Asian countries almost every month. And he just called me and then actually technically shouting me.
Technically shouting me.
And then he just said like, India will be the next big thing for sure. I visited most of the Asian countries, and then India is very different. And then something is going on there.
What year was that?
2013, actually. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's a long time ago now, but yeah, definitely something is going to happen in India. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then like, he said like there's something going on, so I cannot stay in Japan for anymore. I'm going to shut the shop in Japan, move to India, start something new there. So why don't you join? Type of the discussion we had. Yeah, I mean, I just quit Nomura, and then it might be more interesting and more learning than just traveling around the world to stay in one country, starting something new. Whether it can be successful or not, doesn't matter, right? I can learn something there. Yeah. So, okay, I'm just going to join your journey. This is how I actually moved to India. Unlike other investors who notice, okay, India is a good investment opportunities and then growing economies, I'm going to start investing in there. Not like this. My friend just called me to go there, so I just go there. So it's very random, so to be honest. So in that sense, I was very lucky, right? And then he was correct. Like after I moved to India, I just realized the potential of India. And then even I amazed by the Indian people, Indian culture. So I just decided to stay for next few decades until my retirement. Maybe I'm going to stay in India. So I just decided. Yeah. So first 2 years, actually, we ran the company. It failed, unfortunately. But we learned a lot of things from there. And then the very last few months of the operations, I just went back to Japan for my friend's wedding. Then Incubate Fund Japan team, they internally discussing to start the India fund, just contacted me.
Did you know them before? Honma-san, Akaura-san, you didn't know them?
I didn't know. And actually, Akaura-san just called me when I just back to Japan for my friend's wedding. Akaura-san just called me. I have 30 minutes in the family restaurant in Gotanda. So can you come this day, this timing? I have only 30 minutes. Could you come? And yeah, I have nothing to do. So, but he didn't explain me context. He just called me, can you come? Then I just go there. And then literally
did you know who he was? Like, did you know what the Incubate Fund was?
He introduced, right? He's a venture capitalist in Japan. And then I knew his name. So yeah, okay. It might be interesting to see him. So I just go there. And then after 30 minutes, 1 glass of beer, he just said, like, I like you and I trust you. So I'm going to give you a few millions. So please go to India and invest. And it was literally very much the starting point of Incubate Fund India. So that 30-minute discussion changed my life actually completely. But yeah, this is how we started. And then I just moved down to Bangalore and then started the Incubate Fund India. Yeah.
So I understand your perspective on India. Your friend called you and just said it's going to change. You quit your job at Nomura, moved there, tried to build something for a few years. I want to talk about what you learned. But first of all, I want to try to understand what was driving Akaura-san, the Incubate Fund, and Honma-san's desire to start something in India as well? Right, for you, I understand you had lived there, but they've just been investing in Japan. So what was driving them to India?
It's a good point. I think the 2 points, I think, obviously they have many venture capital friends,
Sure.
Japanese venture capital friends, but at the time only a few VCs, Japanese VCs was investing in India. But they knew some of them, right? And then these people just told them India is very different from Japan. There's also growing ecosystem there and then huge opportunities. So they just kind of decided to capture more bigger opportunity there is one thing. And then another thing is simply because, let's say, if we see all the global startup ecosystem, right? And then obviously US is largest, but it's highly competitive as well, right? And then getting into there with very small fund, almost no chance, I think, to be successful there. Also China, it's kind of closed market, and then setting up a fund there and then doing well there without the very local trusted partner, it's almost also impossible, I think. And then it's a natural choice. The maybe third largest startup ecosystem at that time also, and then to becoming more bigger is India. So they just, okay, it's a natural choice. Expanding from Japan, next destination will be India. This is how I think they decided to go to India, I think.
Makes sense. I want to follow up on two things, actually, if you don't mind. You mentioned that all of the regional funds, including the fund in Japan, operate separately, but all operate on the same basic principles.
Yeah.
And then you also said that India is very different than the Japanese market. So I'm super curious, what are those basic principles so that people can understand how Incubate Fund actually thinks about investing? And second, what are some of the really unique things about the Indian market that the rest of the world doesn't know?
So that's an interesting point. So first, basic principles, all of the regional funds of the Incubate Fund is sharing. Our name suggests, right, Incubate Fund. So we want to invest at the first venture capital round. So we will never invest at the Series A, Series B as an initial check. We always invest at the pre-seed or seed round as a lead investor. We always invest at the seed round as a lead investor. This is a basic principle all of the regional fund is sharing each other. We are venture capital fund, obviously, but we also trying to be the kind of like co-founder or the co-creator with the founders, trying to be one of the founding team members for at least the first 1 to 2 years of the operations of the company. So that's why we're trying to get as much the stake as possible as well. And also we want to invest at the first VC round. This is the basic principle we have. Now, other than that, the region to region ecosystem is different. So we customize our operation and then the models. So it's very different from Japan, US, and India, actually. But this seed round lead position is the kind of mantra we have among the OD.
I like it. Can you talk a little bit now about how India is different?
India and Japan, how it's different. We are starting in Japan. India is unique or Japan is unique. This is kind of a debating point, actually. Japan is also very unique and different from other ecosystem, to be honest.
Right.
So, let's say I can discuss about how it's different from Japan market, like the Indian market is how it's different from Japan market or Japan ecosystem. One thing is, as I mentioned, in Japan, let's say exits of the startups, I think still like 80% plus of the exit is through the IPO. This is also very unique because the startup IPOs are widely accepted, and then the stock exchange is widely open for the startups. Even small sub-$100 million valuation company can go public in Japan.
Most of those are on Mothers or?
Mothers, yeah.
On the Mothers exchange, not on TSE1 or TSE2,
Yeah. So mostly to the Mothers. That Mothers was open, like, I don't know, like more than 10 years back, but this is a kind of a game-changing moment for the startup in Japan, right? On the other hand, India, obviously, the IPO is for the very large startups only. Now it's gradually changing, but still mostly like the over 500 million type of the valuation companies go public usually. The many exits, so especially for early stage venture capital fund like us, will be secondary trade or the M&A. So this exit mechanism itself is very different. We have to adjust our operation model to that exit ecosystem itself. So this is one difference. And then also founders' mindset or even VC's mindset is kind of different between Japan and India. What I noticed is Indian founders are very good on writing very big pictures and then the large growth stories and then the expanding the operations and the increasing the top line very quickly, taking a very bold bet and then raising a huge amount, using all the money for the growth and all of these things. It's very good on that. But at the same time, like how to control the cost metrics and then making sure the marketing budget is under control and then in the end, making the large profit pool is sometimes a little weak in my point of view. but it's completely opposite in Japan. All the VCs even are thinking about the profitability of the company from day one. 80% of the exit is through the IPO. So they're trying to make the company to be profitable before the IPO happens. Even from day one, they putting the profitability mindset into the founders, and the founder also accepting this. But at the same time, growth mindset is sometimes weak in Japanese founders. This is pros and cons, obviously, and then they accustomed, adjusted to the ecosystems. We cannot say which is better, but this is very much different mindsets. In that sense, I can bring some perspective of the profitability from our Japan perspective into the Indian ecosystem. So
one of the things I wonder about seed stage investors, right? Because it's the earliest stage you can invest. It's also the most risky, but it also has the most upside potential, right? Which is why you said earlier, you want to get as much of a stake as you possibly can. I wonder if instead of waiting for companies to come to you, like Incubate Fund itself, whether it's in Asia and LATAM or anywhere else that you operate, has its own thesis and says, I want to find a company like in the EV sector or in the logistics sector, in the fintech sector. So you do some of your own research, go out to the ecosystem and look to try to find the best companies and then bring them in, right? So you're being proactive about this, yes?
Yeah, that's true. And then this is kind of like we are different from many like micro VCs who typically just waiting for the deal flow to come. And then let's say 70-80% of our investments in India, I think almost 100% in Japan are we proactively approaching to the founder from our side. We always building the thesis internally, investment thesis. It's not like we are going to investing in fintech, not like this. Like in fintech, we do lending, but we don't do payment because of these reasons. In lending, we will do the SME lending, but we are not going to do the consumer lending because of these reasons. We want to do this specific business model. We want to invest in this country. This type of the discussion we internally have in India team. Also, sometimes we have the global discussion together with the Japan team, US team, LATAM team, and then what's going on in US, what's going on in LATAM. And then we also share what's going on in India. And then just we build the thesis together with the other regional team as well. And then we just going out to the market to find the good startup, unfunded startup ideally, who is doing the very much similar things as our thesis. We're trying to find the right founding team, which we can implement the idea into the founding team and then be starting the company together. We are kind of incubating the company as well. Right? For example, the Pram Insurance, which is the group insurance brokerage company in India, they got funding from Sequoia Storage and Tiger Global. Actually, we committed to investment before they incorporated the company. So I just we reached out to the founders and then had a coffee for 1 hour, 2 hours, exchange the notes. And then I really like the founders. And then what they're trying to do is very much fit to what we are thinking. We just selected, whenever you incorporate the company, just come back. We are going to write the check. This type of approach is the best case scenario for us because we can touch the company even before the other VCs reach out to them. Obviously, like Incubate Fund in Japan have a name values or the brand, but in India still we are very small. Even if I'm a founder, if we got the term sheet from Axel, Sequoia, and the Incubate, I'm going to take the Sequoia Axel term sheet most likely to win against these other top tier funds. For us, like a small unbranded fund in India, we really need to reach out to the founders before the other VCs reach out. In that sense, we're trying to be more proactively reaching out to the ecosystem from our side.
I was going to ask you that too. So Plum is an interesting company as well. We had Plum on our Asia InsurTech podcast show back in 2020. So Abhishek Podar was actually on the show a long time ago. So we've known them for a while. But I do like this idea of, like, it's in the name. It's called Incubate Fund, right? So you're more than just an investment fund, right? You're actually trying to be not co-founders per se, because you don't want to get in their way. But if you've invested in over 200 companies, you've seen a lot of stuff, right? So you can actually add value by saying, we've seen company A do this. You may want to try the same thing or something similar. Can I ask you this, though, in a very specific way? I've done, I don't know, in the last 6 or 7 years across my podcast network, right? The Asia Tech podcast, InsurTech podcast, InsurTech Amplified, India Game Changer. I've done thousands of recordings. When I talk to a founder, I think maybe in the first like 15 minutes of a recording with them, I can feel like, okay, this guy or this gal is serious and is going to build something big, even if the company they're building right now doesn't work. But you can tell that like they're going to build something big, even if this thing doesn't work.
Right.
Can you try to explain, because I know it's hard, but can you try to explain what you're looking for in a founder or in a founding team where you just like, you know what, I have to give these people some money because they're going to build something big. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
That's actually a good point. This is, even I really want to know the answers.
Yeah, you understand the point, right? Like when I meet somebody, I can't identify what that thing is, but I know it's there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand, right? Even for us, most of the cases, like first 15, 20 minutes of the discussion, 50% of our decision making is almost done, right? So
Right.
we feel something in these founders or this is maybe average founders. So yeah, this is a good point. But the one point we really keep it in important among our team, it's also, I think many other VCs also using the same term, but how the passion and then also the commitment of the founders into this specific business or the issues which they are trying to solve. And even like the even very strong founders and then the very nice business models, right? In the long run, they will face so much challenges, right?
Yeah.
If they don't have a super passionate about the actual issues they are trying to solve, it's very easy to give up. So this commitment level and then how much the passionate about the business they are trying to build is we trying to kind of like assess at the first meeting. And obviously, other than that, how pedigree the founder is.
Sure.
Their previous learning from the experience and this stuff we also highly value. But the fundamentally, how strongly they are believing in what they are trying to do is the most important things. This thing, even through the Zoom call, first 15, 20 minutes, we can feel it actually.
Right. So here's what I say to founders before I record with them. I think educated, smart people can be good at anything they try.
Yeah.
But to be great at something, you have to care about it. And I'm always trying to figure out, why do you care? And if I can figure that out in the first 15 minutes, if they're like, I have to do this because this thing happened to my dad and I have to build this thing before I die. I'm like, okay, I believe you. I can trust you. Remember, Akawara-san did this to you. He met with you for 30 minutes, right? And said, here's some money, go to India.
Yeah, even like after like 2 years or so, he just told me, like, he left after 30 minutes saying like, okay, I decided I'm going to give you or investing in a few million. So please start investing in India. Take it or not, it's up to you. And he just left, right? And then if he said, like, if I didn't reply him in one day, he will not invest.
Because you wouldn't have cared. Yeah.
This is the point. I mean, if I just negotiate on the terms or if I'm just saying something, I want to invest with you, but this is the term, blah, blah, blah. And he just, okay.
Never mind.
I just reply right away. Okay, it's good. I want to do it with you. So this is the kind of things, right? Even our Japan fund, and also us actually, let's say when we're investing in the seed stage companies, we sometimes request the founder or founding team salary, right? We said until Series A happens, we want you to get only this much of the salaries. If someone negotiates back with us on the founder's salary, obviously everybody negotiate back, obviously, it's fine. But if we kind of dispute about the founder's salary, it's a very much a yellow flag for us.
It's a great way to test.
Usually cases, this founder will not be successful because they don't have an entrepreneurship mindset, right? In the long run, they will get the much more return from their capital gains of their own building a big business, right? Why you need to care about next 1 year of the salary increase by.
But also, how much do you believe in your idea and your ability to execute it? Because if you believe, you'll just like, I'll take half of that. I'll eat noodles for the rest of this year. So I run my own business too. And I pay myself a very small amount of money because I want to use the other money to hire people to do the other stuff that I can't do. We
have like tens of such small checkpoints to assess the founder's quality and this stuff. It's also keep updating, starting also learning from the other VCs, stage top tier funds in India, Japan, everywhere, how they are assessing the founders. And we keep updating all of these checklists. But this is kind of one example, but we have the tens of such things.
I like it. Do you have other sectors specifically that are interesting to you? We did talk a little bit about fintech, but like, how about things that people talk about every day, like electric vehicles or artificial intelligence? Or I once had a guy on India Game Changer who said to me that every Indian family is like one health accident away from poverty. Right? Because if something bad happens to them, it's just so expensive to fix, or they just don't have the resources or the technology is not there to do it. Do you think about the health sector? Maybe we can talk about that a little bit as well.
From what you mentioned, like the EV is one of the sector we also closely looking at. Actually, we have one portfolio for the Yuru bike, which is now the largest EV two-wheeler sharing platform in India.
Nice.
Is our portfolio. We also wrote the first check together with other Indian VCs like Broom and 314. But also like there are many other things should be improved in EV ecosystem in India, right? Some battery management systems, and the battery itself also we are closely looking at. So EV is one of the things we are also focusing on. And then fintech, obviously, we're running the SMBC fund as well. Their almost entire money is going to the fintech. So we're closely looking at the fintech And also the supply chain, especially for import export from India to India, is the one of the focus area we have. Somehow 50 to 60% of our existing portfolio is somewhat supply chain related.
Interesting.
Some successful ones also, like the Captain Fresh, which is now becoming unicorn, as the global seafood supply chain company, or Shop Kirana, which was our first investment in India. All of these companies are actually supply chain related. And we feel, especially for export from India, given this China plus one, China-US tensions are happening, the supply chain from China to somewhere, this is happening. And then how to coordinate these things, I think this space for the startup to play around. This cross-border import-export supply chain play, we have a very strong interest. And the healthcare also, as you said, it's one of the largest issues in India. But for the healthcare, we have kind of thesis around not only internet service type of the healthcare companies, but maybe we want to invest some physical presence. Maybe we investing in the new age clinic chains type of the companies, very much tech-enabled clinic chain and this stuff, because it may solve the much larger issues, I think, and the direct impact to the societies. Yeah, maybe healthcare also. And then the direct to consumer is also still, we feel there's some brands, direct consumer brands in India also, we feel the potentials. Basically all these things. And plus entertainment. Since we are from Japan, we can add some value into the entertainment company. We technically know almost all the gaming companies, IP holders in Japan directly. So we can support the Indian contents company from that perspective as well. So yeah, these are roughly our current focus areas.
Can I ask you this? Do you think there's been a shift in the Indian startup ecosystem from just building in India for India and now building in India for the rest of the world?
Yeah. I think so, especially for the software industry, right? Have been built in India to global was the kind of thesis, right? Most of the SaaS companies who is becoming very big, like unicorn company from India, have a certain percentage of the revenue coming from, let's say, US, and because the price point is much higher than India. So building a great product in India and selling in the US or global, as always, for the software, at least for even last 5 years, what the kind of the thesis everybody's chasing. But not only this software SaaS companies, I feel now building India, go global type of approach is start working. One example is our portfolio Captain Fresh, right? When we invested in the companies, they are very much domestic seafood supply chain companies, but very much tech-enabled from end to end. From the fishermen to the retailers, they're creating the entire tech stack to make more efficiencies into the supply chain, right? And then somehow found a travel around the world, visit 200 over the wet seafood market globally.
Wow.
And then he realized actually what he's doing in India is more advanced than even in the US or Europe. And then he just realized, okay, this business model can be exported to the other regions, and then connecting all of these regional supply chain into the global platform, maybe building a very large platform. So this, in the sense, like somehow in India, very difficult market, some service models or product which tested in India can work even in the advanced market like US or Europe, I think. So this type of the success stories, I feel coming out from India more and more from now on is very, very exciting stories, right? We can build the very large service companies or supply chain company from India to global. This is very exciting stories. And we will see more success stories in next decades, I think.
I think so too, particularly in the supply chain area where just the logistics, for lack of a better term, are just so much more difficult in India. And it's such a large country. And also the language and culture is different from like this 100 kilometers to the next 300 kilometers away. So just solving all of those little problems are so hard where if you get to a place like the United States and you're tech enabled, you're like, I'll just go down 95, get off the exit and go do this thing. It's just much easier, right? Even in Japan, it's easier.
That's true. And also one more quick point is some industries, let's say like BPOs, ITOs, like outsourcing from the, let's say US or any other countries into India have been a very big business in India, right? But actually this industry have not been disrupted for last 20 years. Still doing the exactly same thing as 20 years, even call center operations or the business outsourcing, all of these things, right? I feel like this should be disrupted by AI. Kind of same BPO 2.0 type of the approach should coming out from India. Still some human labor will be there, but the more tech-enabled, AI-enabled approach to the BPO using the cost arbitration also from the India or maybe other countries like Philippines or Southeast Asia countries may come out. And then this is also another big theme we are chasing in India and also in Southeast Asia as well.
So I'm curious about your opinion on this. Sam Altman, I think in the last week or two was in India. Maybe it was in the last month.
Okay.
And somebody in the audience asked him, an Indian gentleman in the audience asked him, what kind of companies in the AI space that are using large language models and other models that we can build do you think will be able to compete on the global scale? And Sam Altman said, unironically, he said, I think it's useless for you guys to try to build anything. You're so far behind us and there's no way you're ever going to catch us. And I think he's right that he's ahead, but I think arrogance and hubris at that level leaves a massive market open for it just shows a real lack of understanding for what the technical prowess is in India, particularly through the IITs and some of the other higher learning institutions, that those guys can build some pretty amazing stuff, right? I think he's leaving that open for them, and I don't even think he knows it.
Yeah. I think this tech talent in India is uncomparable, right? It's very high talent, and then they also the number of this talent is massive, right? Then the only point is how we can work with these talents and then creating the products which actually fit to India and the Indian to global type of the context. I think still there's a chance for the Indian companies to win global from that perspective as well.
I think so too. I want to ask you one more thing maybe, and then I'll let you go. You mentioned earlier that if you're an outsider, right, as a Japanese kind of fund in India, getting into the deal flow is just going to take probably an entire generation, right? It could take a while. I have this philosophy that no one succeeds alone. So are there partnerships that you've formed that you think adds value to you, to your portfolio companies, that helps you on the deal flow perspective, but also helps you on, because one of the things that Incubate was really good about in Japan was investing in the early stage companies and then kind of feeding them to the larger venture capitalists and going, this one's really good, right? So have you built those partnerships in India as well?
Yeah, I think so. It's also took a long time because we started in India like a few years back. Technically, I was alone at the time, and even the fund size is only 1-digit medium, right? So it was very, very small fund. But the only point we have keep it in mind, it's very difficult. I mean, many, let's say, Japanese VCs or any foreign VCs start investing in India. Their initial strategy usually, I don't want to compete with the Indian local VCs to take the lead position. Because it's very rare chance to win against the local VCs. So I'm just going to co-invest with the local VCs, giving up the share percentage. But we didn't do this. It was very tough. At the seed stage, we always trying to lead the round, always competing against the other Indian VCs. And we lost many deals actually. But we keep doing this. Most of the portfolio companies, we are leading the round. This actually, in the long run, it worked well. I don't want to say this from my voice, but because of that, we supported the first round of the lead investor and then connecting to the other top tier VCs like Axel, Matrix, Tiger Global, all of these funds. So somehow we got kind of respect from them as well, I feel. Actually, the now working very well because we have a good relationship with the most of the top tier funds in India. It's seed fund or Series A or later funds also. This actually works well to support our portfolio companies for sure. Yeah, so this partnership with the other VCs are very much beneficial. And then we want to be closely working with the other VCs in India for sure. One more important point for us to now getting stronger in India is I successfully hired my Indian partner, Rajiv Ranka. We hired him like when we started the second fund in India in 2019. He joined in 2020 actually. This hiring was very much an important changing point for us. He brought a lot of network. He brought IIT connections. He is an IIT Bombay alumni, right? And then also he knows many people in VC industry as well. It was very lucky for me to get in touch with him, and then luckily we could hire him. So these two things actually working very well now.
Did you hire him the same way Akura-san hired you 30 minutes?
I spent a couple of years to hire him actually. I was sitting on the board of the Shop Kirana, and he was a co-investor in Shop Kirana. It was my first investment in India, right? And he was also sitting on the board. So we shared the board, and then then we gradually becoming a friend. And then even after I decided to hire him, I spent almost 6 months to convince him to join us. And then also Incubate Fund approaches are a little different from other typical VCs. So I just don't want to have a mismatch between me and him. So I spent 6 months for him to understand us as well. So that's why I feel we don't have any mismatch as of now. I hope so. He can stay longer to us.
I mean, I'll leave you with this thought. It's funny you said that, but like my co-founder and I kind of danced for like 2 years before we decided to actually form a company just to make sure that everything was okay. Right. Same thing. Like we knew each other. We talked to each other. We sat around and chatted about our ideas and stuff. Yeah. And then 2 years later, we were just like, okay, I think we need to do something. And we're still doing it. Anyway, it definitely works for me. Okay. Now Murakami, founder and general partner, Incubate Fund Asia, and a partner at SMBC Asia Rising Fund. Thank you so much for doing this today. I really appreciate it. I would love to have you or maybe Rajiv back on the show. I'd actually love to have a couple of your portfolio companies on the show as well to get their sense for it, if that's okay with you. Thank you again for doing this today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much.